Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
You're in attendance at UFC 298. Cage side, how was that experience?
Yeah, it was great. Kind of a last minute thing. I was heading down to San Diego to train with Angela Hill and Jessica Penne, and they were like, do you want to come to the fight? So I was like, of course. I had a couple friends on the card, so that was really cool to get to experience. And then obviously the rest of the night was phenomenal with amazing fights.
For sure. And one of your teammates, Anthony Hernandez. I know you probably don't really train with him too much. He's kind of a big dude, but man, I think he's a future champ. Isn't he incredible? The fighting style that he has.
Oh yeah, for sure. He makes it look so easy, like it's crazy. But yeah, no, I'm really happy for him. It was a phenomenal performance. Don't expect anything less from him, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. He's like the dark horse, so to say. Now, you've been out for a little bit, and I saw the video of you explaining that you had COVID, long COVID. I interviewed Dustin Stoltzfus, and he's had long COVID like 3 times, and it took
Oh
him out
wow.
for a while. And explain what you went through, and and how it affected you.
Yeah, I had like a rough year. Like I didn't just have COVID. I had like 3 different viral infections, and then the last thing I got was COVID. So I kind of just got like my immune system was low, and I just got hit back to back with everything. So that's kind of why I was out a lot. Most of it was out with the sickness, and then obviously the recovery from that. So yeah, it was rough, but I got through it, and I'm really happy. And I feel like I just kind of like got to show like a little bit of heart from myself too. Like a lot of people don't know what everyone goes through in their in their real lives outside of fighting. So it's been a layoff, but I've been working really hard, and I'm just really happy to be back to where I was and able to be getting back out there for everybody.
In your career so far, and just interviewing you and seeing what you've been going through, you've had a lot of health issues. You had the concussion issues before the London card, and I heard that you were sick the fight week of your last fight.
Yeah, that last fight was when I got the first virus. I had RSV, and I relapsed with that. Like, so I had that, then I relapsed with it, then I got a stomach virus, then I got COVID. So it was like back to back, just like one after the other hitting. So it was pretty rough, but it's probably the only attribute I have is my stubbornness and my toughness to push through things. So it's got me this far.
Yeah, those two things will get you pretty far in life, I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Just going back to the last fight and getting sick, and explain to us how it was cutting weight and fighting with the sickness.
Yeah, it was. I kind of was at that point where I was like, oh, well, I'm here now. I kind of just gotta make the best of it. But it's quite funny because I was talking to a couple of the guys afterwards, and they were backstage and they're looking at each other. I'm like sleeping in the corner, just trying to just trying to get like as much energy as possible. But no, it was okay. Like obviously, like affected my gas tank, made me feel a bit more tired. Obviously didn't warm up as much as I usually would, just try to conserve energy. I wasn't really sleeping at night. Like I was having to take like NyQuil and stuff like that. The PI said I could take. But I feel like when I get to the fight, I've already done so much to prepare to where it's kind of like I'm like confident in the in the groundwork that I've already put in. So I just kind of went out there and hoped that my skills would carry me through the fight and make up for what I was missing physically.
Oh, definitely, carried through, and you got the victory, got the unanimous decision, and defeating Cheyenne, under those circumstances, and she was, built up a little bit, kind of had some hype. How big was that victory for you and your career trajectory?
Yeah, that was huge. I had a lot of doubters going into that fight. I was an underdog again as usual, but even like, people that I cared about, I think it was like the first time that I dealt with, oh, sorry, I cut out real quick. People that I cared about kind of were like, "Ooh, I don't know," but I was confident. I knew that, I knew that if I just showed up and worked hard and trusted myself, that I could get the job done. And obviously, plenty to work on. I feel like I showcased a lot of different skills in that fight. Obviously, I would have loved to have got the finish, but given the circumstance of, my health and everything else going into that fight, I was really happy with the outcome and quite proud of myself for pushing through where I feel like most others wouldn't have.
Yeah, knowing all the circumstances that you went through that week, I mean, it was an incredible performance. And now you're back March 16th. Jaqueline Amorim, thoughts on her and her fighting style?
Yeah, I mean, Jaqueline's, she's a great opponent, LFA champ, world champ grappler, plenty of finishes on her record. So definitely no slouch, but don't expect to be fighting any slouches in the UFC. You know what I mean? We're at the highest level, so I'm excited to be able to go out there, test myself. It's been a long layoff, like I say, but I've been staying active, training around all the sickness or studying tape, trying to just stay involved as much as possible. So I definitely don't feel like I've fallen behind in the time off. So I'm excited to go out there and kind of showcase my full range of skills against a girl that kind of, I feel like her style lines up very well with my style. It's probably the first time I fought like a strict grappler, so that kind of excites me. It's a different look to what I'm used to. But yeah, like they say, solid opponent. I think it's going to be a really fun fight and a good opportunity for me to showcase a lot of my technique and my skill as well, going in there because she's at such a high level.
Tape study, how has that benefited you? You know what I mean? Because is it something that you just started recently, or have you been always doing that, or how has it benefited you?
I've always watched it, like I've always tried to watch it, you know what I mean? I feel like it is beneficial for people to, like you say, especially staying involved in the sport when you're not able to be active. I am a sucker for being kind of like, oh, I'd rather do it than actually watch it. I'd rather put 5-6 hours in on the mat than actually just sit and watch TV, because I get like, I get a little fidgety, but I think it's good. And then like I've also been doing like like the commentary and stuff too, which also forces me to like sit down, watch the fights, break them apart, be analytical. I've started coaching again. So I feel like it's kind of allowed me to lean back into my technical side of things too, with all of it. And I think it's good because I think, people talk about fight IQ all the time. I do think that there is a lot of, intelligence that goes into fighting, with the right game plan, the right technique and everything like that. So yeah, I think it's very beneficial.
Have you ever, watched tape on someone or maybe just a fight, and then when you're in training, you realized, hey, I saw this position in the tape. Like you kind of, it might have been a new position, but you saw it and it made you better understand the position, I guess.
Oh, definitely. Like there's plenty of times where I'll be watching a fight and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna try that. Like even just like not even like it's not tape study, but like yesterday, like went over a couple of new things with Angie and her husband. We were doing like some striking work, and they were like, oh, I think you should play around with that. And then today I went into sparring, and like that was my, I try to set goals each sparring, and I was like, all right, I wanna land that at least once today, and I landed it twice, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Like now it's, now I have it in my toolbox. So I think it's cool to, constantly be trying to expand your skills and add to your arsenal. And yeah, so I think it's a very good approach for people for sure.
And when we look at this matchup, it's a fight, but then you guys are very good at grappling, both of you. And when you compare your ground game, it's different to hers. What differences do you see?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference. She is a jiu-jitsu girl, like strict jiu-jitsu. She'll do like awkward jiu-jitsu style movements. I've seen her pull guard. I've seen her throw up subs from positions where I feel like a lot of MMA fighters wouldn't necessarily risk losing position to get submission. And I feel like she's very much down to grapple. Whereas a lot of the girls I fought, like Hyon, for example, she wanted to keep it on the feet. So it's like it was a lot harder to control her on the ground, like a lot of fighting to get her down. But I feel like I'm not a jiu-jitsu player per se. Like I've obviously done jiu-jitsu for like 14 years now. But I consider myself more of an MMA grappler. I mean, I feel like I try to lean more on that pressure heavy style. So I think it's going to be fun for me to have a girl that's kind of willing to get into those scrambles and, be able to actually test my jiu-jitsu against her. Instead of me having to be the one to like push and initiate and like hold everything. So I think that's like the biggest thing is like, I think she's going to, I mean, she might try to come out and strike with me. I don't know. Like, I feel like everyone's constantly evolving in their game in this sport. So I don't like to assume that someone's going to come out the exact same that they've been doing in their previous fights. But like you say, she's a solid grappler, and I think it's gonna allow me to have a little bit of fun and try to use a little bit more of my jiu-jitsu too.
Ground and pound finish or submission? Which do you prefer?
I like a submission. But I'll take ground and pound. I like finishing for sure, but no, I do love submissions like chokes and stuff because I feel like they can only fight it so much. You know what I mean? You take it out of the hands of the referee and the judges, whereas with ground and pound, you're relying on the ref to stop it sometimes. But no, I definitely love like the chokes and stuff like that because you kind of there's only so much they can fight them before they either go out or tap. So I'm definitely a fan of submissions.
You mentioned earlier that, San Diego, Angela Hill. How much of your camp have you spent down there?
I'm only down here for I think it's been like a week and a half. Like I say, I've got great training partners in at Team Alpha Male right now too, so it's just good for me to come down here and get like a different look, mix up the styles a little bit. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu girls down here for me to get some experience with. So I just kind of came down here to mix it up. I think I did like over half of my last camp down here. So yeah, I just want to come down here, mix it up, test myself against some different girls, and we're at the midway point of camp, so it was good for me to kind of just get like a refresh and a different look mid camp. But then I'm gonna be heading back up to Team Alpha Male to work with my training partners up there and my coaches and stuff.
Yeah, and Angela Hill, the experience that she has is just limitless.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's great. Like obviously, I wish I could have been down there a little bit more, but life gets you sometimes. And then also like my teammates have been in camp too. And like I say, I'm not at a loss for work up there. So it's kind of like, I say I used it as a little bit of a refresh and just come down here to get a different look and obviously keep that connection going. Like I'm super grateful for them for having me and training with me. So it's definitely a great resource for my fight camps.
Who are the women helping you out at Alpha Male?
Oh, right now we have so Tina Black or Valesca Machado. Tina Black's her Brazilian name. She's fighting on A1 tomorrow. She was on Contender Series. Honestly, she's amazing. Like I think we're gonna see her in the UFC in no time. I feel like she maybe underperformed a little bit in her last couple fights. But like she's phenomenal on the mats. So I think if once she like transfers that over, she's gonna be running through that division in no time. And then we've got obviously Jan's fighting for the strawweight title in I believe it's May. Macy's fighting the week before me, and then we've got we got like Maritza Sanchez is in Combate. So there's a lot of very high level girls on the mat right now at Team Alpha Male. And then obviously I'm fortunate enough to get work with like Uriah Faber, Danny Castillo. So yeah, no end of work here on both sides of the camp.
For sure, sounds like a grindhouse, with all those people in camp.
Yeah, definitely. We're all working hard and we're all pushing towards the same goal. So it's great to be surrounded by like-minded people.
What do you envision for yourself in this fight coming up?
A win. I mean, I don't like to set too harsh goals. I've been working really hard. I've been practicing, all my skill set, my grappling, my wrestling, my striking. And at the end of the day, I'm just gonna, like with every fight, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do my absolute best to get that win. I would obviously love a finish, be it on the feet or like a submission or TKO, like you said. But honestly, I'm just gonna go out there and use my stubbornness and my resilience to try to get that win and come home victorious and back in that active streak.
You only have 2 setbacks in your career, and both of them are by split decision, right? Very close fights, could have went your way. Do those fights sit heavy with you, or is it easy for you to put those in the rearview mirror?
No, I'm a sore loser for sure. But I think they do sit heavy with me just because they're ones that like a lot of people, they said I want them, and I hate leaving things in the hands of the judges as it is. Even the fights that I win, if they're if they go to the judges' scorecards, I'm nervous. I don't like to do that, but sometimes you're fighting these tough girls. Like I think people don't realize like the harder your competition gets, the harder it is to finish these fights because you're both good and you're both fighting for the same thing. So. But no, definitely weighs heavy. Definitely a feeling I don't want to experience again. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not like dwelling on it. Like I'm not going out to every fight like thinking about those, but it's definitely something that I don't want to feel again. So it's like, like I'm not like I joke and say I'm a sore loser. It's not something I'm dwelling on, but at the same time, it's something that I'm aware can happen, and it just motivates me to not allow that to happen again.
And especially with the judging, it doesn't seem like it's getting better. It just seems I don't even know. I can't even explain it, to be honest with you. It's
Yeah, there's been a few fights where I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" But yeah, like it's just more motivation to not trust them with my career and my dreams.
And one last thing, you've been doing the commentating thing, in cage interviews, taking people's, you're taking my job, I guess, but I want you to put on the analyst hat, right? UFC 300, your teammate, Yan Xiaonan's fighting Zhang Weili is probably one of the best fights we're going to have of the year. What is your breakdown of that fight?
Oof, you put me on the spot. It's a tough fight. Like, I feel like Wei Li has, I don't know, you see a different version of her sometimes in the fights. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm like, oh, she's gonna absolutely run through this fight, and then she doesn't, or like she doesn't perform how I think she's gonna. So it's kind of hard to say because like I say, she's a phenomenal fighter. But so's Yan. Like she's been working really hard with her wrestling with Danny Castillo. She's been doing a lot of her grappling with like Uriah. I think she was going over to Chris Holdsworth for a bit. So her grappling has, like, it's tenfold what it was when she first came to Team Alpha Male. So I think I know obviously Weili. I think Weili's the favorite probably right now from what I've heard. But I definitely don't think we should count Yan out. Like I think her striking's crisp. She hits like a truck. Like I've had to spar with her like many a times, and it's a fight. So I know that girl can throw down, and then like you say, her grappling is improving tremendously. So I really think it comes down to who shows up better on the night. Um, they're both definitely championship caliber girls, so I'm not even going to try to call it. I think it literally just comes down to who shows up better on the night. Like I think both girls are very well rounded and both have capabilities to finish the fight. I don't think it's going to go all the rounds personally. I just think it depends on who shows up and implements their game first.
Yan also, she's really good in that underdog role as well. She seems like she shows up more violent in underdog roles. She kind of has a chip on her shoulder a little bit more. I think it's gonna affect it in this fight probably.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And like you say, both Chinese girls, this is like the first time they've ever had, a Chinese woman fight another Chinese woman, and for the belt. Like this, it's gonna be a crazy fight. And I'm sure both girls are gonna come out trying to, with a little chip on their shoulder, trying to prove something. And I'm excited for the fight. Like, say, I don't really know which way it's gonna go. I think it's gonna be an amazing fight.
Another amazing fight, another amazing matchup, March 16th, you against Jaqueline. Thank you so much for the time, Cory, and all the best in the fight coming up, and hopefully no hiccups, in fight week.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm like gonna knock on some wood real quick. But hey, either way, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna push through. So we'll be good.